Every painful relationship has a moment you don't want to admit. The moment you realize the people closest to you are the ones draining your strength the most. Maybe it's family, maybe it's a friend you've known for years, but something has shifted. Their words cut deeper, their presence feels heavier, and your peace disappears the moment they walk into the room. Here is the truth most people avoid. You do not have to tolerate disrespect, manipulation, or emotional exhaustion just because there's history, blood, or shared memories. Stoic philosophy teaches that your first and most sacred duty is to protect your mind, your time, and your inner peace. This duty, this pursuit of psychological sovereignty, demands that you guard your internal kingdom, even if that means drawing the line against those who feel entitled to hurt you, those who believe they have permanent access to your peace. For the Stoics, the core of freedom is self-rule. If another person's behavior, emotions, or presence can reliably hijack your tranquility, you are not sovereign. You are a hostage. And the time comes when you must declare yourself free. Today, we are going to look at 10 undeniable signs that it is time to cut ties, create distance, or fundamentally change the nature of a relationship. This is not about anger, vengeance, or demanding an apology. This is about self-respect, clarity, and the radical protection of your soul. Let us begin the audit of your most valuable assets, your peace and your time. Sign 1. They consistently belittle you. The erosion of self-worth. Stoic principle. If someone succeeds in provoking you, realize that your mind has decided to assent to the feeling of insult. Epictetus. There is a quiet kind of harm that doesn't leave bruises, but leaves you doubting your worth. It happens in the small comments, the subtle tones, the little jokes that somehow always cut deeper than they should. When someone repeatedly minimizes your achievements, mocks your efforts, or treats your goals as childish fantasies, you aren't dealing with love. You're dealing with someone who is slowly eroding your sense of self. Belittling is rarely loud. It's not always shouting or direct insults. More often it shows up in disguised forms: sarcasm that stings, advice that talks down to you, comparisons meant to make you feel small. They call it honesty, humor, or keeping you grounded. But notice this: their honesty never uplifts, their humor never protects, and their grounding never helps you grow. Marcus Aurelius wrote that the behavior of others is their burden, not yours. A person who constantly tries to shrink others is often trying to hide their own inadequacy. Belittling is projection in disguise. It is insecurity reaching for control. The real danger is the normalization of it. You start adjusting your voice, your dreams, your personality, just to avoid being mocked. You begin living below your potential simply to keep the peace with someone who has no desire to see you rise. The Stoic response is not to argue or defend. It is to observe the pattern, recognize the disrespect, and withdraw your emotional access. You cannot force someone to treat you better, but you can choose not to remain in places where your worth is repeatedly denied. Respect is not negotiable. Sign 2. They refuse accountability. The blame game tax. Stoic principle. The mind that is anxious about future events is miserable. Seneca. One of the clearest signs that a relationship has become unhealthy is when the other person refuses to take responsibility for their actions. Every mistake is someone else's fault. Every conflict is because you overreacted. Never them. When a person constantly avoids accountability, you're dealing with someone who will drain your emotional energy one excuse at a time. People who never take responsibility are masters of rewriting the story. They'll twist conversations, deny things they clearly said, shift blame onto you, or use selective memory to paint themselves as the victim. It's a cycle: blame, deflect, guilt, trip, repeat. Admitting fault requires humility, emotional maturity, and self-awareness. Those who lack these qualities would rather distort reality than confront their flaws. Epictetus wrote that a wise mind focuses more on correcting itself than accusing the world, but someone who refuses responsibility protects their ego at the cost of your sanity. Over time, this dynamic conditions you to carry emotional weight that isn't yours. You begin apologizing just to end the conflict. You start questioning your memory. Accountability is a sign of respect. When someone refuses to own their actions, they are showing you that your feelings and your boundaries don't matter. You end up carrying the weight for both of you until you collapse. The Stoic response is clarity, not conflict. Stop accepting blame that doesn't belong to you. A relationship without accountability is not a partnership, it's a burden. Choosing distance from someone who always makes you the problem is not cruelty, it's self-respect. Blame is their weapon. Clarity is your shield. Sign 3. They only come to you when they need something. The transactional trap. Stoic principle. True friendship is found in virtue, not utility. Seneca. There is a certain type of relationship that feels warm only when the other person wants something from you. Your time, your attention, your emotional labor, your money, or your support. When they're in trouble, confused, lonely, or bored, suddenly you matter. But the moment their crisis passes, they vanish. Their warmth disappears, and you're left wondering why you always feel useful but never valued. This is not connection, it is convenience. And convenience is not friendship. Pay attention to the pattern. Do they ever check on you without needing something? Do they add anything to your life, or do they simply take? The Stoic philosophy teaches that a healthy relationship is based on mutual contribution, not one-sided extraction. Someone who only shows up when it benefits them is a taker disguised as one. Their presence is conditional, transactional, and ultimately draining. The hidden danger is how subtly they condition you to become their rescuer. You drop everything to help them, even when you're exhausted. When you finally reach a moment of need, they are nowhere to be found. You forget that you too deserve reciprocity. The Stoic approach is simple. Observe actions, not words. Set boundaries with those who take more than they give. Limit your availability to those who only appear when it's convenient for them. Your time, your energy, and your peace are limited resources, not public property. If someone only knocks on your door when they need something, they're choosing the benefits of you, and that is not a relationship you must keep. Your energy is a resource. Protect it. Sign 4. They treat your boundaries like a joke, the test of self-respect. Stoic principle. I must die, but must I die bawling? Epictetus. There is no clearer sign of disrespect than someone consistently ignoring or mocking the limits you set to protect your peace. A boundary is not a request. It is a line drawn from self-respect. But for some people, your boundaries are nothing more than obstacles. They believe they can push, bend, or laugh their way around them. They respond to your limits with sarcasm. Relax. It's not that serious. Instead of acknowledging your discomfort, they invalidate it. Instead of adjusting their behavior, they try to make you feel guilty for wanting dignity. They turn your boundaries into a punchline. A boundary only works when it is enforced, not when it is endlessly explained. When someone repeatedly dismisses your limits, they are not confused. They are testing you. When someone treats your boundaries like a joke, what they're really saying is, my preferences matter more than your peace. The Stoic response is firm, calm, and action-centered. You set the boundary once, clearly. If they continue to disrespect it, you withdraw access, your time, your attention, your emotional presence. You do not argue, you simply protect yourself, because the truth is simple. If someone ignores your boundaries, They are revealing themselves. Sign 5. They feel envious when you succeed. The sabotage of ambition. Stoic principle. When you are well, they will envy you. When you are poor, they will scorn you. Seneca. One of the most painful realizations is discovering that someone close to you doesn't actually want to see you win. You can feel the shift, the stiffness in their voice, the forced enthusiasm, the subtle change in energy. Instead of genuine excitement, there's an undercurrent of discomfort. Envy is quiet, but it is never invisible. When something good happens to you, they downplay it or immediately compare it to someone else. They never say, "I'm proud of you," without attaching a reminder of their own struggles. The Stoics taught that envy arises from another person's unaddressed insecurity. Your growth exposes what they have avoided. Your growth threatens the stability of the stories they tell themselves. Envy becomes dangerous when it turns into subtle sabotage. You may notice they discourage your ambitions, plant seeds of doubt, or gossip behind your back. You cannot build a peaceful life while surrounded by people who secretly hope you stay small. When those around you are threatened by your growth, you will shrink yourself without realizing it. The Stoic response is to quietly protect your energy. You reduce how much you share. You keep your goals guarded. A true friend does not compete with you. They rise beside you. When someone's support disappears the moment you rise, believe what their silence reveals. Not everyone deserves a front row seat to your success. Sign 6. You always feel like you're walking on eggshells. The slavery of instability. Stoic principle. The greatest slavery is emotional dependence on another person's moods, judgments, or approval. Epictetus. A relationship becomes emotionally dangerous the moment you realize you are no longer being yourself. When every word must be calculated, every reaction measured, and every emotion suppressed just to keep the peace. You're not in a relationship, you're in a psychological minefield. Walking on eggshells is a sign of fear. Before expressing anything real, you ask yourself, will they twist this? Will they punish me for being honest? Your nervous system becomes hypervigilant, constantly scanning for mood shifts or emotional traps. This isn't connection, it's survival. They create this environment through guilt trips, unpredictable reactions, or using your vulnerabilities as ammunition. They make you responsible for managing their emotional instability. You become the caretaker of their chaos. When you are constantly adjusting yourself to avoid upsetting someone, you lose your autonomy, you lose your voice, you lose your identity. The Stoic response is clarity and courage. You begin to observe without reacting. You separate their emotions from your responsibility, and you allow distance to grow where fear has taken root. If you cannot relax around someone you love, that is not love. It is emotional captivity. Sign 7. They do not respect your time, effort, or priorities. The entitlement dynamic. Stoic principle. People guard their money fiercely, but waste their time carelessly, even though time is the one thing we can never earn back. Seneca. One of the most devastating forms of disrespect is when someone treats your time, your commitments, and your responsibilities as if they are insignificant. They show up late without apology. They expect you to rearrange your schedule for their convenience. This is a pattern rooted in entitlement. People who truly value you understand that time is life, and when they disregard your time, they're disregarding your life. The danger is how quietly it conditions you to devalue yourself. You start apologizing for being busy, for having goals, for having a life outside of them. You shrink your world to fit theirs. The Stoic response is to reclaim control of your time with calm firmness. You stop over-explaining. You stop apologizing for having boundaries. You begin saying simple phrases like, "I'm not available, that doesn't work for me." If your time is always negotiable to them but theirs is sacred, you're being treated as a convenience. Your time is sacred. Protect it. Sign 8. They demand instant emotional labor, the burden of the unresolved. Stoic principle. Don't let your reflection on the whole of life be troubled. Do not let external things distract you. Marcus Aurelius. This sign is the unregulated emotional dumping. These individuals treat you as their personal, perpetual therapist, often demanding intense emotional labor without any warning or respect for your own state. They call you out of the blue with a crisis. They require instant validation for their feelings, and if you are unavailable, they guilt trip you. They are not asking for support. They are demanding a release valve. They are using your stability to manage their own chaos. The danger here is compassion fatigue. Your life becomes perpetually on call for their next disaster. You start absorbing their anxiety. The Stoic believes that every person must bear their own burdens. When someone demands instant, intense emotional labor, they are infringing upon your most sacred possession, your tranquility. The Stoic response is to slow down the crisis. You set boundaries around communication. I can't talk right now, but send me a text summary and I will look at it later. You refuse to panic on their behalf. Your empathy is a gift, not an obligation. Sign 9. They actively sabotage other healthy relationships in your life, the isolation tactic. Stoic principle. If you have assumed any character beyond your strength, you have both degraded yourself in that and neglected one which you might have sustained. Epictetus. This is one of the most insidious and dangerous signs. They actively, though often subtly, try to isolate you from other healthy, supportive people in your life. This sabotage manifests as criticizing your other friends, using feigned concern, creating drama when you spend time away from them, or demanding exclusivity. Why do they do this? Because a person who relies on control needs you to be vulnerable and dependent. If you have a strong, independent support network, you have clarity. All things that threaten the manipulator's control. When you allow someone to successfully isolate you, you degrade yourself and neglect the virtuous connections that might have helped you see the harmful relationship clearly. The Stoic response is to treat your network of virtuous relationships as essential infrastructure. You do not let one person's jealousy dictate the shape of your social life. If a relationship is actively pushing away your other sources of peace, it is trapping you. Sign 10. You feel more peaceful when you distance yourself from them, the clarity of silence. Stoic principle. If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke at any moment. Marcus Aurelius. Sometimes the clearest sign is how your body reacts when you pull away. If your mind feels calmer, your chest feels lighter, and your days feel clearer when you're not around someone, that is not coincidence. That is inner wisdom speaking. Peace is data. Relief is evidence. Did you leave your last interaction feeling tense, drained, or needing to recover your energy afterward? Those are indicators of emotional misalignment. Marcus Aurelius wrote that what is good for your nature brings harmony, what is not brings disturbance. Peace then becomes the ultimate compass. The most dangerous thing you can do is ignore this signal. Loyalty to your past should never cost you your future. You do not owe anyone access to your mind if their presence harms your inner world. The Stoic response is to trust the evidence of your own peace. You create distance without drama. If distance brings you back to yourself, that relationship was costing you too much. Peace is the proof. Always trust it. Conclusion. The declaration of sovereignty. Here's what all of this comes down to. Relationships are supposed to strengthen you, not drain you. They are meant to bring clarity, not confusion. Growth, not guilt. Peace, not emotional chaos. When the people closest to you repeatedly cross your boundaries, minimize your feelings, take without giving, or make you shrink to stay connected, that is not love. That is erosion. Stoic philosophy reminds us that protecting your inner world is not selfish. It is responsible. Marcus Aurelius wrote that your mind is your kingdom, and you must guard it as you would guard something sacred. Walking away from people who damage your peace is maturity. It's the decision to stop negotiating your worth. You now have 10 unmistakable signs to listen to. As you move forward, choose clarity over guilt, strength over attachment, and inner peace over outdated loyalty. Distance doesn't break real relationships. It only exposes the ones that were never real to begin with. If this message spoke to you, like the video, share it with someone who needs this clarity, and comment below. I choose peace.